Good afternoon, YouTube. These are skateboard wheels. This is a set of the Avila. I think they call these grapey apes. They're really soft, large diameter wheels, 75 millimeter, and I think they're 72 durometer, 75. They're really soft. One of the problems with soft skateboard wheels like this, especially on longboards and pumping, where you're doing a lot of side-to-side turning, is they crack or tear like that. And so one of the services I offer is I trim wheels down to size. So what you can do is restore a wheel like this by just trimming off the damaged material. And if you do that, like the other wheel here in the set is not damaged, but if you trim all four of them to the same dimensions, you basically come up with 4 new wheels, and they're all the same width. And then one of the other things I do is I re-bevel the edges, and the beveling helps prevent the chipping like that because you don't have a sharp edge. So let me show you how this works here. And what I have for a tool, this is a parting tool. In fact, there's the parting tool end. And what I did was I took the other end of this parting tool and sharpened it into a razor sharp blade. And I just line it up with the mark and then run the piece in like I'm doing a parting cut, but instead of cutting the material like you would with metal, you actually slice it off, because polyurethane is very tough to cut. And the only way to really cut it is to slice it like a knife. And you have to have a really thin blade because there's a lot of friction with that soft material. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay, we'll see how this angle works here. Let me check my alignment there. I'll try to cut right about there so I lock in the carriage. So let's see, we'll make a cut here and see how this goes. Coming through down there, gets lighter. There we go. So you see we just cut off the damaged part of the wheel right there. And I'll take that off when I bevel it, so let me show you how I do that. Okay, so we'll try the beveling here. I just used some 80 grit sandpaper on a block, and we just go against the edge of the wheel. There we go. That cleaned up pretty good. See how tough the polyurethane is. It takes a good minute or two to just sand. That's about a 2 or 3 millimeter bevel. I might do a little bit more on that. Okay, YouTube, we have some more skateboard wheels to trim today. These are the 107 millimeter ABEC 11. I think they call them the electric fly wheels. And these I've trimmed before, and the customer wants them trimmed down just barely outside of the center hub. So that is pushing the limit of my lathe, because the larger diameter wheel means I have to move the cross slide farther back, and then the deeper section of the wheel that I have to cut through means I have to extend my cutting blade out farther. And right there, I'm at the end of the travel. I can go out to about there. So I've got just a very tiny amount of room to play with. So let's see what this one looks like here. Just barely made it. You can see right there how close we get. So I can just barely cut through there, but we get as close to the center hub as possible there. So yeah, I guess this will be about as thin a wheel as you can get. So yeah, here's the wheel we're starting with. These are some used wheels, and I'm cutting them, trimming them down that much. I've machined these before, and then the customer just wants them a little bit narrower. It shaves off quite a bit of weight because you're getting rid of 2 pieces like that. I just wanted to give you a quick look at my jig. So I made this custom spindle. It's a piece of 1-inch aluminum rod. So I have an 8mm bolt. This is the size of the outside of the bearing that fits into the bearing pocket on the wheel. Then I have the other side set up the same way, and then I have a hole tapped into the rod. I can just screw that in until the wheel is held tight by the bearing surfaces, and then that way the cut is true to the rolling center of the wheel. So I use the actual bearing surfaces of the wheel. So this also works well for cleaning up wheels that, especially the bigger wheels, sometimes they're not quite square, and so when you do this it squares up all of the out of round edges. So that's my little turning jig. Comes in pretty handy for working on skateboard wheels like this. So we'll show you what they look like when I get them all done here. Okay, there we go, YouTube. Got 3 pairs of wheels all cut down. So these were the ones that were damaged, had the tear out. So we got all that pretty much cleaned up there. And these just took the edge off the very corner. And one of the things I notice with doing that, with these wheels that have very sharp edges like this, they get a lot of grip. But one of the things that you find happen, one is they tear out like this set of wheels did. The other thing I notice, especially with the outside edge, you get a lot of grip, but then when the wheel does let go, it just breaks loose with no warning. And by thickening up the edge a little bit and putting a bevel on it, the wheel tends to break loose gradually, so you feel when it's starting to let go, and it's a lot more controllable that way rather than having it just cut loose with no warning. And then these wheels were just cut down in width, and that's one of the other things you can do with trimming wheels is you can make a wide wheel narrower, so we got rid of that much weight there, all of that extra material. The other thing you can do is you can take a wheel like this that's offset and you can make it center set, so it's equal width on both sides of the bearing. And then the other thing, these weren't really bad, but one thing that happens too when you have these really thin edges is the wheels tend to what they call cone. So this inside will wear down more than the outside, and then they don't roll as efficiently. So one thing you can do is you can cut the coned part off. So you cut the part that isn't worn off, and then you cut a little bit of the part that is worn off. And especially if you can convert the wheel to center set, then it wears much more evenly because you have the same weight on both sides of the wheel. So that's something you can do to rescue some wheels that are coned. So now those 3 pair of wheels are ready to go back into service. So I'm going to get those packed up today and shipped out to the customer. So if you're interested in getting some skateboard wheels, especially longboard, large diameter, soft durometer wheels trimmed, drop me a message here, comment in the video, or send me a private message via YouTube, or my email address is in the channel description page. So be happy to give you a quote. I'll put a link to my wheel trimming page in there. You can see some examples of wheels I've done. I've done a whole bunch of my own wheels and done quite a few for other skateboarders, longboarders, long distance riders. So that's mainly what I focus on, is these large, expensive and soft wheels. They get a lot of miles on them, and with those kind of wheels it's worthwhile cleaning them up and repairing them, getting rid of the damaged parts and putting them back in service. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, post up in the comment section below the video. And as always, thanks for watching.